And
Okay, so good afternoon to all of our participants here in Zoom and those who are in Facebook Live. So marahay na hapon po to our fellow colleagues, deans, professors, and teachers in Partido State University. We also have some guests from other universities, from Jose Rizal Memorial State University. Hello po. Thank you po for joining us again. We also have from CBSUA, and we also have Doc Pam, Dr. Cardena, and Dr. Arao of CHED. So hello po. We also have from UST Legazpi. Okay, so hello po, mga ma'am and sir, and we thank you for joining us today. So welcome to our fourth Balongibog Talks for this week's series, Situating New Normal in Advanced Education in Bicol. So first, I would like
Angel? Okay. I guess nawalan po ng internet kasi medyo maulan po dito sa Gawa at the moment. So, um, let me take over while Ma'am Zel is... Okay. Let me take over while Ma'am Lizelle Atol is trying to connect with us. So, I guess I'll proceed by introducing our speaker this afternoon. Okay. Hello po. May we remind our Zoom participants na pwede pong paki-mute po ng microphones because we're starting our lecture now po. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So to introduce our speaker this afternoon, Dr. Bernadette Gumba, Dean of the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies of the Partido State University. She's the President of the Council of Deans for Graduate Education in Region 5. She's also an Associate Professor of Business Management and Economics, and a faculty researcher with publications in several international refereed and Scopus Index journals. So to introduce our to welcome our our speaker for this afternoon, Dr. Bernadette Gumba po.
Thank you very much, Ken. So I'd like to welcome again our colleagues from the Council of Deans for Graduate Education, Dr. Villaflor, Dr. Manzano. Dr. Villaflor is from CBSUA, Dr. Manzano is from CSPC. And of course, our colleagues also from the Commission on Higher. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, also my fellow deans in other universities, the University of Santo Tomas in Legazpi, and from Mr. Geronimo Veloso. Dr. Geronimo Veloso. Thank you for joining us. From UST Legazpi, we have Dr. Alvin. And of course, our Suki from Jose Rizal Memorial State University. Good afternoon. So I'm going to just prepare the PowerPoint. So my brief presentation today will be about possibilities and opportunities for graduate research in the new normal. I have prepared a short outline. I would like to start first with a context that's like a pre-COVID situation where there was so much talk and discussion about the fourth industrial revolution and the implications to the future of global research. And then I'll also scan the research agenda of the Philippine government in 2017 and 2022, and of course also a controversial memo from the Commission on Higher Education. It's CMO 15 series of 2019, which was recently issued in December 2019. And then I'll proceed to the new normal, which is our current situation where we have COVID, the threat of COVID because there's no vaccine yet. There are also implications on research because of the COVID pandemic. There are some school of thought that classifies research into essential and non-essential, being that COVID-related researches are essential and the others are non-essential. And then the research that shapes the new normal, where we as graduate students and faculty maybe can enter into or engage into. And then finally, discipline-based and locally contextualized research. So for the pre-COVID situation, we all know, and I'm sure we have attended many conferences and seminars about this. We're currently under the fourth industrial revolution, where we have cyber physical systems. This is actually this anchored, or this was developed from the third revolution, but comparably speaking, the fourth industrial revolution is more exponential in terms of in terms of speed and in terms of the width and depth on its effects to the world is much greater than the third industrial revolution. Of course, we know historically the second revolution on mass production and electricity, and the first revolution on mechanization and the use of steam and water power. So the fourth industrial revolution, I'm just going to go through this very briefly, this started when humans have developed the computing capacity to store massive amounts of data, which in turn can enable machine learning. The outcome of this is the development of what we call CPS, or the cyber physical systems. The internet has transformed how human beings interact with each other. But this one, the CPS, will transform how humans interact with the physical world around us. And that would include transportation, health, manufacturing, agriculture, energy, defense, aerospace, and building, among others. And the CPS also demands for cross-disciplinary research and education. So we have to build collaboration among different disciplines. And from, of course, the author of this fourth industrial revolution, the pioneer and executive director of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, he claimed that new technologies will fuse the physical, digital, and biological worlds. So we ourselves have already experienced, most of us have experienced the influence of the fourth industrial revolution. We're able to talk virtually and communicate across borders. What we're doing right now is actually already an influence of the fourth industrial revolution. The CPS gives us the capacity to connect not only among each other, among ourselves, but to digital networks. Just to give us an example on how billions of people connect to digital networks, like for example, getting a ride or buying a product, expecting deliveries, whether it's food or non-food products, services, making payments, listening to music, watching a film, or playing a game. These are all manifestations of our connection to digital networks, which makes our personal lives more convenient and facilitative. Another feature is the mobile devices, which has unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge. A very small gadget like the cell phone can is actually the capacity of processing and instant access to information and knowledge. Actually, before COVID, I wasn't able to maximize the use of my cell phone and the laptop. I know there's Zoom, I know there's Moodle, I know there's Google, but since anyway I can talk to my friends and my colleagues face to face, I was not encouraged to use all this. But now we are all forced to resort to these mobile devices, and we get so much information. Our problem now is how to evaluate and assess this information, if this information is true or fake, and also of course how to process the information that we get. So the fourth industrial revolution has disrupted almost every industry in every country, of course including education. Let me first look at the labor market, because of course educational institutions like our universities are feeders of human resources to the labor market. So the fourth industrial revolution benefit consumers who can afford and access the digital world. There's actually a digital divide because there are sectors in the society, and they're the majority, who cannot afford and therefore have no access to the digital world or to the digital resources. So this will only benefit or at the onset, the consumers who gained from the fourth industrial revolution are those who can afford and can access. So technology has made, as I've said earlier, has made possible new products and services. It made our life more efficient and pleasurable, isn't it? Because it's convenient. Like in addition to what I just mentioned, booking a flight, making a payment, conducting a meeting, or attending a webinar. But only a certain portion of the population are able to do this. And this was also evident during the lockdowns. Later, I'm going to mention about the irony of the protocols. I'll discuss that later under new normal. The economists, we have Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee, claimed that the fourth industrial revolution will create greater inequality and will disrupt the labor markets. Those who are uh, prepared for the fourth industrial revolution will be able to make it, will be able to succeed. But as automation is as a major feature of the fourth industrial revolution. As automation substitutes for labor across the entire economy, there will be a displacement of machines, the displacement of workers by machines. So it might exacerbate the gap between the knowledge workers and the routine or pattern workers. We are supposedly part of the knowledge workers, those who are in the academe. Very fortunate for us, but we're going to discuss that later about the role of universities. So the fourth industrial revolution will displace the routine and pattern workers. of course, if you start your work from 8 o'clock in the morning up to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, let's say, for example, counting money and then jotting down the name of the person who deposited the money and then tipping the money, and then later on you get the money, count it again, and then return it to the person. If this is your work, it can be replaced by machines later. So we can look at our jobs and the jobs of our friends or family members, and if these are routine and pattern work jobs, eventually they'll be replaced by machine. What kind of courses are we developing in our universities? Are we preparing our students to the fourth industrial revolution, or are we still in the context of the third revolution or even the second? There are many arrangements in the labor market right now that are still patterned on the second industrial revolution. So according to these economists, uh, in the future, talent will be more important than capital. It will represent a critical measure of production. Capital will be useless if the talent is not able to maximize the use of machinery or other factors of production. So this will give rise to a job market that increasingly segregate the low skill jobs and the low pay, of course, low skill, low pay, and the high skill and high pay segments of the labor market, which in turn will lead to increase in social tensions. I discussed this, sorry, that's actually the role of universities, why I discussed the labor market is because we develop as I've said earlier, the human resources who will soon become part of the labor market. But just to give you an idea, this is from McKinsey. The jobs that are routine and pattern are also called as automatable jobs. In other words, it can be replaced by machines. In the agriculture, forestry, fisheries sector, this is based on 54 countries, which represent 78% of the global labor market. 50% of the current jobs in industry, forestry, and fishery and hunting will soon be replaced by machine. And that's about 328 million current employees. Manufacturing, 64%, 237 million employees. Retail trade, 54%, which is 187 million employees. Now, for the highly populated countries like China, India, and US, these are the number of employees that will soon be replaced by machines. As I've said, we call McKinsey called automatable jobs. Now that's a challenge to us university workers, knowledge workers. We are the feeders to the labor market. And if we want to prepare our students to a labor market that will soon be part of a fourth industrial revolution, we ourselves should also be familiar and know what are the demands in the fourth industrial revolution. So it is it's the universities who should adapt. So we can no longer use what we have been accustomed to because the university does not anymore monopolize information transfer. We are no longer the sole source of information because of fourth industrial revolution combined also of course with the third industrial revolution. Everything is connected. You can get materials, resources, information, data from all over the place. You can get it from different gadgets. Just actually, when I'm talking with my children, whenever they have a question, you Google it. It's all there. So even if there's no teacher, information can be accessed. So what do? We should develop lifelong learners with higher order thinking skills. I'm sure educators, researchers, we are all aware of the Bloom's taxonomy. So, okay. In addition to that, the World Economic Forum um, is recommending uh, how many? Nine additional characteristics for universities to develop in their students: complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment, decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. Here it's called cognitive agility. So flexibility or agility, just like a bamboo, even if you have us, even if you're standing high, you can bend. Just like in the academy, even if you have specialized in a particular discipline, of course, CHED um, encourage verticalization. Okay, so if you start with, for example, biology in undergrad, you have to take your master's and PhD in a relatively aligned discipline. However, we should not stop there. Our students should develop cognitive agility, or the ability to learn from other disciplines, so that we'll be able to look at the interplay of different disciplines. It's just like when our graduate students go into thesis writing, and then they don't know how to analyze the statistical, they don't know how to conduct statistical analysis. So they get a statistician. They finish their research and their thesis without understanding what happened to their data. And during the defense, they will say, that's what my statistician said. That's not an enough explanation or justification in a defense. So my fellow faculty members in the graduate school, do not accept that kind of explanation. So creativity is the key. Students should discipline in their field, but they should be able to adapt to changes. Later, I'm going to mention how the pandemic disrupted our lives and how it affected our ability, or how we responded creatively, or and then how we manifested our cognitive agility. So, in the Industrial Revolution, but this is from Nancy Gleason. According to her, um, working skills are also going to be very important, because content can change, it can evolve, it can transform. But as long as you have the skills to learn how to learn, and to adapt to changes, to learn new things, and with open mind and cognitive flexibility, I'm sure that our students will succeed. Now, for the future of global research, this is from Elsevier. They conducted a research where they interviewed experts, researchers. They conducted survey with researchers, conducted workshops, and as well as literature review. According to them, the the countries, okay, the research countries that they call, led by North America, the UK, and China is included. they have come together, and some, of course, some developing countries have come together to establish shared goals for both basic research and some major applied challenge, like climate change, energy, food security. Of course, we all know there are two types of research, the pure research, basic research, and applied research. What is given more importance now, especially by research funding organizations, are applied research. Researches that would lead to the rapid development of practical solutions. Research that would solve societal problems that will create impact. So if you are interested to submit research for funding, these are the four criteria: societal impact, or the usefulness of your research; data dissemination, you should be ready to disseminate your data. The previous expectations that the funding agency will be the sole owner of your data, that's not the in thing anymore. This group of countries that I mentioned, from the West, Western countries, UK, North America, and China, especially China, they are upholding data dissemination. And of course, peer review is always there to ensure the quality of research. And very important, the research should have successful engagement on collaborative efforts. So when you say collaborative efforts, it includes regional. So of course, we are expected to collaborate at the global level, but siguro UP can do that. But in universities like us, probably we can start in the region, not the region in the Philippines, but region like Southeast Asia or Asian universities. I'm sure we can do that. Or just 2 or 3 country collaboration. I'm sure there are universities who have collaboration with Japanese universities, universities in Thailand and Vietnam. So the researchers who demonstrate interdisciplinary skills are most successful. They also, the kind of research that is being encouraged now is collaboration via social platforms. That's very common. And post-publication evaluation is also the norm. You can publish your research and still be open to reviews and comments, and then publish it, with, of course, with the condition that you have to open, or you have to reveal what are the processes that the research has gone through. Okay. And also cross-institutional researches. Okay, there. The next for future of global research is, yeah, this one I find this really very encouraging and very interesting. Funding agencies and philanthropic organizations in different parts engage with the public. They give priority to research proposals, or give funding grants to researches that is accompanied by public engagement plan. So this is also called in some sectors in the research world as trans-disciplinarity. Trans-disciplinarity is different from interdisciplinarity because In interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research, the assumption is these are who are involved are people in the academe with their specific disciplines and they work together. With transdisciplinarity, the academe with their different disciplines will collaborate with other sectors like the LGU. If your research is on fisheries, you have to involve the fisher folks. If your research is on gender, you have to involve all the different gender orientations if they're within the scope of your research. And they should be involved not only in the dissemination, but even from the planning stage. Okay. You communicate research findings and benefits to society in an easy to understand way. Again, this is a challenge, especially for natural scientists. The challenge to us now, if you want to be in the mainstream of global research, make your research findings understandable, not only to people within the same school of thinking, like if you're in engineering, only engineers will understand your work. If you're in physics, only physicists will understand your work. Make it, prepare it in such a way that it's easy to understand, especially to other stakeholders. And of course, big data and analytics. Um, as I mentioned earlier, the CPS, the human beings now have the capacity to store data, big volumes and data every day. This is just a simple example. Just the data of the Department of Health about COVID every day. That every day that passes by, the data comes in. So you can imagine how quick or how fast the data will grow. And of course, this data needs to be analyzed and processed, or else it will not help in decision making. So the challenge to us in the academe, where we can also involve our graduate students, is how to maximize and optimize big data for decision making. I'd like to mention today that tomorrow, Ma'am Yumi De Luna is going to discuss about big data and analytics as part of the Balongibog lecture series. Okay, so this is also surprising for me. Research articles research articles are still valued as a channel for communicating these discoveries. However, um, there's a shift. All the countries that I mentioned, UK, China, North America, and other Western countries, and even developing countries, are encouraging open access publication in journals. It's becoming a norm. The subscription-based journals are either they try to transform into open access, or they just fold down. Um, we also encourage preprints, meaning even before you finalize your research, you can already distribute it for comments and reviews by peers. So preprints or post-publication evaluation. So these are the kinds of publications that thrive now. And maybe again, given the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, we can build networks where you can exchange big big volume of data. Um, the development of artificial intelligence also supports manuscript editing and review. Just to mention some, computers can already do editing, spelling check, originality check, and so many other things. I've even read an article where computers can even do peer review. where they can check the logic of a manuscript. Imagine. So, even checking the logic and the consistency um, among the objectives, the methodology, the data, and the recommendations of a research that can be done by machines. Okay, so there, that's the, this is still pre-COVID, sorry. So before the COVID, the Philippine government has already released all the research agenda. As you can see, it's very much aligned with the future of global research. Like I mentioned earlier, food security, health, sustainable communities, which are stakeholders of results of research. Okay, and these are some of the topics that you can go into, of course, depending on the field or the course that you're trying to pursue. Environment, animal improvement, fish health. And of course, this disaster risk reduction and climate change. Climate change, I just mentioned earlier, in the as the one of the priorities of future global research. And these are all technology, modeling, simulation, forecasting. So if our students can help us as co-authors to develop these technologies, we will be able to contribute a lot, not only to research, but even to improving the quality of life of society. The CHED memo, this is directly applicable to graduate schools. This memo is policy standards and guidelines for Philippine graduate education. I'm not going to go through all the memo, just to mention some of the controversial but important provisions. I just had a meeting, the COGE officers, a meeting with the officials of CHED, including Regional Director Bernal and Dr. Pam Viñas, Dr. Ma'am Tess de Alban. They said this is going to push through. This is going to push through, whether we like it or not. We have 3 years to prepare for it. All graduate schools in the country. Candidates for master's degree should produce a publishable manuscript. Candidates for doctor's degree should publish their dissertation. Graduate school heads should have discipline-aligned research track record and published works. And a number of graduate school faculty for each program should have a discipline-aligned publication. Okay, so there, that's before the COVID. Now, for the new normal, um, like where we are now, there's COVID, there's no vaccine yet, there's a threat of contamination, infection, and of course, that's a danger to our life, our teachers, students alike, and all the personnel in the university. Um, as I mentioned earlier, sorry, I'll go back to that later. So the new normal was disruptive. If you're going to look at it, it's the disruption is far-reaching. Okay, they said this is the third. Some say this is the third pandemic. The first was, I think, polio. The second was HIV. And this is the third, COVID. But COVID is really the why is the pandemic that has affected actually almost all countries, all sectors, all people from all walks of life. So it's very disruptive. And one of the um, effects or that became evident is inequality. Inequality in the society. I call it irony in the protocols because the unequal situations of people in society was not recognized. For example, they said stay at home. What happens to the people with no home? Um, Physical distancing. But if you live in a house that's only that can with 3 meter or with 1 meter distance will only accommodate 2 or 3 persons, but there are 8 children in the family. Or they are told to stay at home, relax. How can they relax? They have no work, no income, and therefore no food. But these are all not recognized in the lockdown. During the lockdown, it all appeared were all observable during the process of the lockdown, the distribution of the social amelioration program, etc. So what I'm saying here is we have actually experienced already the disruption with the fourth industrial revolution. This is another disruption, but it's relatively temporary compared to the influence or the effects of the fourth industrial revolution. But of course, we have to face both of these. But just to make it clear, this one is short term. The fourth industrial revolution is long term. But this can already help us. How did we respond to the changes, to the disruption? What was our response, or how did we cope, if we even had to cope? So it challenged our ability to respond to change. So we probably, if you reflect, you can already tell yourself, okay, this is where I'm strong. Maybe I can continue on this in facing the fourth industrial revolution, and this is where I'm weak. I have to work on this and strengthen my probably cognitive agility and creativity. The Filipinos are very creative. Very many have already adapted slowly with the changes that was brought about by the pandemic. So there, cognitive agility and emotional intelligence. I've been receiving many information about emotional intelligence, particularly because of the case of the student who committed suicide. So I think it's also the responsibility of schools not only to develop cognitive intelligence, but also emotional intelligence. Now, for the essential versus non-essential research. Tinawara baga? Okay. So, this one, I'm just going to present this because this is quite alarming if this is how we are going to look at research. There has been an extraordinary show of solidarity among scientists across the globe uh, who mobilized all their resources, human, physical, and financial, to combat the novel coronavirus disease. So there was like a discrimination. Those researches that are not COVID related became non-essential. And during the lockdowns, they were the first which were closed or halted. I'll give you an example. I read an article here on malaria. There has been continuous efforts on studying malaria. Just to give you a related literature, 416 articles on preclinical studies of promising drugs against malaria, 492 articles on vaccines, 1,023 articles on diagnostics, 3,350 patents on file for broad field of malaria, 119 malaria drug trials, 61 malaria vaccine trials, 66 clinical studies on malaria diagnostics. All of these have been halted because according to governments and even funding agencies, they have to focus on the coronavirus. We have to find a vaccine. Of course, malaria is also it's a dangerous disease, and it would be really a waste if we're going to halt this to to give uh, to give way to coronavirus researches. So I think the focus, the attention should be balanced. Now, with that, I'd like to present this in the new normal. Uh, we all can engage here. I have enumerated here some of the graduate school disciplines in the Bicol region. I'm sorry for those who are attending here who are from other regions. But based on the list of the Commission on Higher Education on the different master's and PhD degrees offered by HEIs in Bicol, we can actually go into different aspects of human life that were affected by the COVID pandemic. So the COVID pandemic had vast, far-reaching, and upsetting effects on almost all sectors. Of course, the first in the list will be health, um, psychology. So you can, this is actually a time, a very ripe time for research because this is new. But that's why it's called new normal. It's new. And since it has not happened in the past in a magnitude like this, it's worth documenting. You have to trace everything. If you can be as detailed as possible, better. Your research output, I'm sure, would be a very important material in the future. Education. There's you can look at experience of depth ed. So you can start from prep, kindergarten, elementary, high school, even senior high school, college. There are vast possibilities, number of possibilities for research. Business and economics, of course. Employment, the jobs that were displaced. By the way, robots are not contaminated by COVID. So baka ako I'm just looking at this the pandemic might actually accelerate the fourth industrial revolution because if there's no vaccine then the more the inventors will uh, move faster to develop robots because robots don't get COVID. So if you will be replaced by alba ngunyan, you will not work or kaya half month only or half day only. But later on, if a robot can do your work, you will lose the job altogether. Public administration, of course, and governance. This was discussed by Sir Charlie yesterday. Entrepreneurship, also related to business. Theology, pastoral ministry, worship, faith, philosophy. These are all very important areas to study because the person, the human being, as I've said, is multifaceted. You can look at all of this, very interesting. Agriculture, plant science, environmental science, resource management, maybe materials that can help people to combat COVID, stronger immune system. There was a news the other week that abaca may be used as a material for face mask. 87% of the supply of abaca in the world, and the total supply of abaca in the globe, 87% comes from the Philippines. In the Philippines, Catanduanes is one of the largest abaca producing regions. So maybe I've already seen abaca for every face mask, it costs 100 pesos. The cloth mask, it's only 25 pesos. So how can abaca compete with cloth? But if you can probably prove that abaca is more effective and durable, then maybe the agriculture, plant science, people can do that. Tourism was very much affected. Hotel and restaurant management, of course, information technology. You are in the limelight, the information technology people. Criminology piece, I don't know what you can do with criminology. And of course, human resource management. How are you going to manage the people the workers who are displaced, or probably design mechanisms or strategic plans for your human resource. But as I mentioned earlier, this is something new. Let your research contribute to the shaping of the new normal. My illustration here is there's no really no definite shape. The colors are not yet very clear. So you can contribute there. Define the multiple facets of the new normal. You you can of course prepare a proposal or a research that's discipline based. I included locally contextualized because we are not as mobile as before. There are border checkpoints. Uh, Travel is not very easy. I have a colleague who is now in Iloilo, si Irene, dahil hanggang ngunyan. Dahil pa siya Partido, why? Pag-abot sa Iloilo, may checkpoint. Pag-abot sa Cebu, may checkpoint. Tapos pag-abot Legazpi, checkpoint. So we're not mobile. So probably you can just focus on locally contextualized researches and then later on collaborate with your fellow students or probably colleagues or co-teachers so that you can eventually prepare a consolidated research report. Okay, so what you can do is tracing, monitoring, documenting. Very important also is adaptation and coping because this can be helpful later. The reason why Taiwan, I'm sure you know this already, the reason why Taiwan was able to stop the outbreak of COVID in their country because they already practiced with SARS. They know how to do it. They have documented everything, how they managed the health programs and the systems in their country. So when another pandemic came, they were ready. Zero. I do not know as of today, but during the time that we are all panicking with COVID, Thailand was able to contain the virus. And of course, as given in the future of global research collaboration, transdisciplinarity or interdisciplinary disciplinarity, trans-institutional. I'm using trans-institutional again also in relation to what I heard from Chad before. When you collaborate, there's no the one institution is over the other institutions. Like when UP collaborate with us, they're always the they're always the head, and then we are the subordinates. Maybe we can already design a collaboration. We are all co-equals. May mas mataas sa iba. So transdisciplinarity and trans-institutional. Recommend policy changes, very important. Public policy, a problem becomes public, of course. It should be solved with public policy, or it should be faced or confronted with public policy if it affects a large majority of the community. So how can you do that? Research. You cannot claim something is widely affecting the public if you don't do research, and you should be able to produce evidence. So your policy changes can only be credible if it's research based. And of course, new programs, new procedures on how to combat the pandemic or how to contain how to prevent contamination. And of course, analyze big data for policy and decision recommendations. I'm not going to deal on this a lot because I'd like to give Ma'am Yumi Diluna a chance to elaborate on this. I'm just going to scan this. In the field of education, majority of HEIs in the Bicol region are offering Masters in Education, Doctor of Education, Philosophy of Education. This is from UPOU. They're conducting researches, but only as far as their own system is concerned. They have been documenting learning profile, learning styles, etc. I'm not going to read all of them. You can do this in your own schools because we cannot travel, isn't it? Or if you have two schools in one municipality, and even if the entire municipality is locked down, you can still move around. You can conduct, just be careful, ha? You can still conduct research Just, of course, follow the health protocols. Very interesting. Mobile learning, computer aided. How are the students coping? How are the teachers doing? And the parents and all the other stakeholders. Of course, don't forget gender, pedagogical approaches. My colleague Mariel Estrella has already prepared a proposal for these pedagogical approaches. Distance education and FD and FL. FL is flexible learning, technology enhanced learning, massive open online courses, management again is very crucial. I have a colleague who asked me, how are you going to check attendance now that classes are online? So how do you manage that? How do you assess if a faculty member is really teaching the students or monitoring their performance? So how do you manage that? Now is the time to read and write. I also read an article about what graduate students are doing right now. Those who have finished data, those who have data already, very lucky. All they have to do is sit down. One have even arranged his workspace for the entire period of lockdown. He was able to read, write, uh, develop her research, and from every now and then consult with her advisor and supervisor through Zoom, through Google. Maswerte sinda. But those who are just in the stage of data gathering, good luck. Ano, siguro I wrote it here. You stay in touch. So stay in touch with your supervisor and advisor. Maximize, capitalize on online and distance advising, consultations, defense. Invite advisors from other institutions or even from other countries. If you have a colleague, an acquaintance who can help you with your research, whether you are a graduate faculty or graduate research, do that. And of course, build networks. Garo time na. Make the most of what you have and what you can do. See, own, use stress in your favor. Kasi sabi, ma'am, time na. Yan lang. Siguro, itong emotional intelligence. Build on our emotional intelligence so that we will not be carried away with all the negativity. Let's think positive. Of course, own your stress. You have to accept, I feel stressed. And then, because if you don't accept, you'll not be able to face it. So you own it, you face it, and you handle it. And you use it in your favor. Ayan, so, just the last, second to the last slide. The pre-COVID, COVID new normal, and the post-COVID. The post-COVID is when the vaccine is already there, available to all of us. So this is all temporary. We are now in the middle, COVID or new normal. But let's not forget, the fourth industrial revolution remains. So we cannot really be waiting for the post-COVID and then, sana mag-abot na ang post-COVID, makarelax na. No. There are so many challenges, especially in the education sector, in instruction, research, and extension. This one may I share this to you from Alexander Van Botzer, the EVP of Elsevier. It's not enough to think about the future, you have to build it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. So for that informative lecture. So now let's go to our open forum. So for those who have questions, you can post your questions po sa ating chat box. So we have questions na po here from Sir Charlie. Sir Charlie, gusto mong ikaw magbasa? Or ako na po ba? Sir Charlie.
Pwede man po. Hello.
Okay, go sir.
Good afternoon.
Good
Thank you.
afternoon.
Hi, Ma'am Burns. Post ko na po yung question. Ma'am, have you heard of Chicken University in South Korea? Have you heard of the Chicken University in South Korea?
Can you please repeat, sir?
Hello, have you heard po, ma'am, itong Chicken University in South Korea?
I know, no.
Okay, anyway. Ito pong Chicken University, they're offering programs highly specialized like paano luto ng chicken, anong mga technology ngunyan para ma-ataman ng chicken ng maayos, anong business programs na para properly market ang mga products out of chicken. What I'm trying to point out is the university is offering highly specialized programs specific to the chicken industry. My question is, what are your thoughts on this, like FIRE or the Fourth Industrial Revolution in education needs highly specialized programs, be it in the graduate or undergraduate programs, to cater to the needs of this. And
okay na, finish na, sir.
Dahil pa po. Ma'am,
okay. So your question is basically what you have written here. Ano, sir? Nawara kayo si audio ko.
Opo.
Sige. What do you think are the implications of this direction in research and development? Are you talking about the direction of Chicken University, sir?
No, of the implications of highly specialized programs in the education sector. How
Chicken University, what do you think are the implications of this direction in research and development? I'm not so familiar with what you're saying about programs being offered in South Korea. As far as I'm concerned, specialized programs, okay, whether graduate or undergraduate, it's still part of the norm, okay? Like you have to specialize or master a certain discipline so that you can go deeper on it, okay? Whether, for example, you're engaged in research or instruction, you're able to specialize and focus and develop your skills and talents on it. But what we're saying in the fourth industrial revolution is that you are not going to stop there. Okay? Like with cognitive agility, sa ano po baga kaya? Sa cognitive agility, itong you are still open. Your mind is not garbaga itong sa kabayo. Sorry sa analogy. Karitong bako kang one direction, bako kang single directed. You have the ability to focus and be an expert and really go reach the depth of your discipline. But at the same time, you're able to look at the role of other disciplines, okay, which can help you further reach the depth of your discipline, and at the same time collaborate with all these disciplines to help society. So, sir, specialization in something, in a certain discipline, in a graduate degree or undergraduate degree, should serve the society. As far as I'm concerned, that's the end goal. So if you just focus and you're not agile, then you're not serving the society, you're just serving yourself. Sorry. I would like to give you an example, sir, about an optical physicist. Very specialized, ano, sir. She's from Germany, babae siya. For a long time, she has been focused on physics, optics, pero she had a chance, actually it's already within the fourth industrial revolution period, she had a chance to work together with biomedical researchers. Ang ginibo po, ini kayong biomedical researchers na ni, they were interested to study all the physiological features of an animal, all the tissues, pati itong mga micro parts, without actually destroying the specimen. So they work together. This optical physicist was able to develop a technology, a camera-based equipment na nagamit ka itong mga biomedical researchers. And itong sa indang research is actually going to develop a medicine. The research is for something geared towards pharmacological intervention. So it's a very good example of trans-disciplinarity, where you're able to focus on your specialization, but you can work together. There's even when this optic physicist wrote the article, sabi niya, she was amazed with the biologists, the biomedical practitioners, because every time they use the technology, the camera equipment, they want to dig deeper into the specimen. So, oy, kulang. This technology should be able to give us a deeper image of the specimen. You develop this. We need this like this. So she adjusts her equipment again, her invention. Now it's called mesolens. Mesolens. She was able to develop that in her name, and still at the same time working with people from other disciplines, eventually to introduce a medicine for the good of the society. Did I answer your question? Right.
Okay, so thank you for that, ma'am. So thank you then, Sir Charlie, for the question. So there's another question po, ma'am, from Ma'am Yoga Abante. Is there a point that we can reach saturation of researches, meaning it has come to a point that there is no way that your research can contribute to the knowledge because there is an already answer to your research question, taking voluminous researches done and being done all over the world? So yan po.
Okay, Ma'am Yolda, thank you for the question. My answer to that is we will never, as long as I think as long as we are living, there's always things to explore. There's always things to learn. It's like hope. Hope springs eternal. Garito bagang sa tuyang hunger for knowledge. Yeah. It also springs eternal. This fourth industrial revolution, actually ako di ko pa naintindihan naman. Hiling inapod nindang CPS. But human beings will not be able to reach that stage if they declare na, tapos na, saturated na ang research. So, I don't think it will happen, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you, Ma'am Burns. We also have some comments from Sir Alvin Sario. Sir Alvin, would you like to say
Dr.
something
Alvin.
po? Dr. Alvin, would you like to say something po about your comment?
Yes, Dr. Alvin from UST Legazpi, Dean of the Graduate School. Dr. Nancy.
Good afternoon, Doc. Mine is not actually a question, but more as a comment. As regards to the universities, I see that post-COVID-19 actually poses much challenges for all of us. What could be possible arrangements or structures that we can have by the year 2022? Which is somehow so-called as the post-COVID-19. That's all po.
Okay. So when you talk of post-COVID, there's no more, there's already a vaccine. So there's no more threat of contamination or spread. And sir, I would like to ask, in what particular aspect are you talking about, sir? Is it graduate education? Or research, or the role of universities in general?
Because I attended some webinars in US and Singapore, and
Wow.
they kept on saying that by post COVID-19 there will be a new way of redefining universities around the world. It seems that the arrangements that we have now will be much challenged. And post COVID 19 would posit new structures, frameworks, and models for higher education specifically. And they said that there should be a need to renew or to change faculty research agenda of these universities. Yun po.
Okay, so yes. Okay. So as I presented in my last slide, what is actually influencing us the most is the fourth industrial revolution. With or without COVID, I think the fourth industrial revolution, since from the start, and then until now, and even after the COVID, with the introduction of a vaccine, the fourth revolution will continue. So I think that's where we're going to respond. And the things that I've mentioned now, probably they're broad strokes, but they would still be the basis of how HEIs, universities, and the education sector will have to be, be, be contextualized on, or where we are going to work on. Regarding the research agenda, for some time, I think until 2022, yes, sir, I would agree, the harmonized research agenda of the Philippine government, which is also anchored, as you can see, in the future global research phenomenon. It's all going to be in that in the aspect or framework. However, as I've said, content continues to change. We cannot say that what for example, what I'm saying right now will be definite 10 years from now or 5 years from now. The author of Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab, said that right now, okay, we can define what is happening or probably what's going to happen in next year, but 10 years from now, probably even it's beyond our imagination. What we can only do is approximate what may happen. But I think we are going to react and respond to what will happen next. Okay? But what I'm also saying is that let's contribute something in the shaping. Para bako lang kitang reactive, we will also be proactive. Okay. What happens in the global level will be incomplete if we don't contribute the local. If we don't look at the local context also.
Salamat po, Doc.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc Burns. So, are there any questions from our participants po? Okay, so wala na po ba tayong pahabol na question kay Doc Burns? Okay, so I think that's it. Tama ba? Wala na ba tayong... Ayan. So I think that's it. Thank you very much, Doc Burns, for your time, for giving this informative lecture. Thank you to our participants for this afternoon. I hope that you can still join us.
Lizelle.
Yes, ma'am. Yes po.
Sorry to interrupt, Lizelle. Thank you to these are the people I personally invited.
Yes po. Go, ma'am.
Rene Gumba, my husband.
Yes.
Sir Mr. Ramji Almoneda from Ateneo Dinaga. Of course, thank you to, yan na pala. Si Cyril De La Vega, my student in the graduate school. Thank you for joining us. May pig-invite ako din nagpabot. Okay, and of course, thank you to my fellow deans in the Council of Deans for Graduate Education, and of course our esteemed officers from the Commission on Higher Education Region 5. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisel.
Thank you, ma'am. So, thank you ulit po sa ating mga participants. We'll see you tomorrow. Sana po you can still join us for our last Balongibog talk for this series. So, we are also issuing certificates for today's participants. So, the Google link is in our chat room. So, kindly answer our short evaluation form. So for us to improve our podcast series. So thank you po ulit and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. Goodbye po.
Congrats po, Dean.